Can a negative easement stop my neighbor from building? Imagine you're planning to buy a property or already own one, and you're concerned about what your neighbors might do in the future. Sometimes, a simple fence or boundary isn't enough to protect your rights. That's where easements come into play, especially a type called a negative easement. A negative easement is a legal right that limits what your neighbor can do on their land. Unlike an affirmative easement, which gives someone the right to use your property, a negative easement restricts them from doing certain things that could harm your property. For example, if you have a negative easement for light, your neighbor can't build a structure that blocks sunlight from reaching your windows. So, can this kind of easement stop your neighbor from building? The answer is yes, if the easement specifically states that they cannot build within certain areas or in certain ways. For instance, if there's a negative easement that prevents any construction that would block air or light, your neighbor can't build a structure that violates those restrictions. However, negative easements are not very common and are usually created through clear agreements, such as written deeds or court orders. They need to be properly documented and recorded to be enforceable. Courts tend to be cautious about recognizing negative easements because they limit what landowners can do. In real estate investing, understanding these restrictions is important. If a property has a negative easement, it can limit how the neighbor develops their land, which might protect your investment by keeping the view or sunlight intact. But on the flip side, if you're the neighbor, you need to know what restrictions are in place before planning any construction. In summary, a negative easement can indeed prevent your neighbor from building in certain ways if it explicitly states so. It acts as a legal barrier, stopping them from doing things like erecting structures that block light, air, or support. But remember, these easements are only effective if they are clearly established and properly recorded. Always review any easements attached to a property before buying or investing, as they can influence what can and cannot be built or changed.